Hey, what's up, guys? Just doing a little check-in about the Yankee White racketeering, Yankee White security clearance, and the racketeers that are attempting to organize to rob me of my security clearance compensation and also my sexual assault and rape and sexual harassment compensation. These folks involve the likes of Jasmine Barkus, as well as Tara Harrington, as well as Iwa, all from Iwa's Taikazine. What they would do is when I was browsing the web, they would force me to watch their porn. They would overlay it over whatever else I might be interested in. Um, and then they would claim that I was personally involved in a relationship with them because they somehow forced a cyber sex phone call with me, which, I'm not privy to the ability to conduct those kinds of things. And so um, recently Jasmine has been coming at me very, with a lot of legal threats about suing me for copyright infringement and uh, suing me for lying and saying she never forced her porn on me. And Tara Harrington is attempting to deny the fact that he slash she, uh, forced their porn on me and would retaliate against me at work for not helping build their quote unquote clout for their pornography careers. And it's all pretty gross. It's a gross topic. It's not something that should be the cause of a tumultuous relationship in a restaurant, but it's very real, and it's something that I dealt with, and I kind of detail that a little better in some of my other videos, namely the Navajo National Guard base video, if you want to look for that title, but also workplace harassment. But yeah, and so recently they've been coming at me with a lot of threats. They're like, because I posted a little bit of a dialogue about what I experienced and the fact that they attempted to deny it. But thankfully, I was really annoyed by what I was experiencing, and so I took a picture to save as evidence. And it's not like they aren't porn stars, right? It's not some sort of privacy infringement, and it's not like it isn't free for everybody else to enjoy on the internet. So I had to keep a record, and I posted a small a photo, just one photo of the whole video. It's not like I'm profiting off of it or anything, but I just wanted to say, yeah, look, they did in fact initiate those cybersex phone calls, and they're trying to take advantage of the fact that Jasmine Barkus has family that's also in the National Guard, and they're going to bully me by coming to my workplace and harassing me there. Which unfortunately my boss was also a National Guardsman. His name is Taki, and he helped them out in the harassment. He aided and abetted them. And the reason this all ties in together with the Yankee White racket and the Yankee White security clearance is because when I worked at US Tycazine, a couple of customers that would show up. One of them is Saif ul Haq. He's a special needs kid. He suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome and microcephaly. He's clinically retarded, and I lived with him to take care of him. Um, he he is a Navy admiral, and he had his family, of course, and his friend Saif Abdullah, also an admiral. They bribed their way into their positions, and they even fly F-16s, and they do overhead passes to intimidate me and show me that they can kill me at any time. They've slipped fentanyl into my medicine to prove that they could kill me anytime, and they brag about being assassins and how they're big shots and whatnot. And so those folks were uh, Saif ul Haq, namely, would show up to Iwa's Taikazine and whisper things to Jasmine Barkus and pass her paper notes. Now, this is important because Jasmine claims to be innocent from the Yankee White security clearance compensation theft that people are orchestrating against me. It's an entire racket. She claims to be innocent of that, yet I made sure to document a photograph of Saif ul Haq passing her a note, a paper note, while I worked at US Taikazine. And Saif ul Haq is, brags about this Yankee White security clearance compensation robbery being his little, his little keystone project. He's supposed to be his big thing. His little baby project is supposed to be something that he's proud of robbing me of tons of money for damages that he caused me over the course of 10 years now. Um, and he was interacting with my coworkers and my boss at US Tycozine, and I made sure to photograph that. Also, Danielle Olson, she claims to be a major, but she's a colonel that works for the U.S. Air Force. Uh, she brags about, her role in the intelligence community, and she brags about being able to rob finances from my trust. Same as Saif ul Haq, right? I literally lived with him, changed his diapers, wiped his butt, cooked his food, cleaned the house for us, and he would claim that he was somehow taking care of me, yet he's clinically retarded and suffers from fetal alcohol syndrome because of his mother's alcoholism. So it just doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense for somebody like that to be siphoning money out of a trust that was made for me. And Danielle Olson is up to the same thing, and a close associate of hers is Jacqueline Braden. And they would hang out all the time. Their liquor parties that they would have every weekend, they would invite me to them. They would just get like shit faced drunk, basically. And, I had a good time. I didn't get sexually involved with them just because I wanted to maintain some professionalism, being that they let me know that they were inducting me into the intelligence community. And, that they like to fly and whatnot. Garrett Myers particularly enjoys bragging about how he likes to fly, and so, anyways, the point is that these folks would regularly come to US Dikazine and would regularly stir up trouble. Saif ul Haq would show up, put on another disguise, and in an attempt to complain to me that I let people know about his special needs, he puts on a much more special needs type of personality after wearing his silicone disguise and showing up to a table. He would make ordering very difficult, be really annoying and really stupid, and so would his wife, Viola Olhuk. She would also show up and act really stupid. And they would do that as some sort of complaint, like, how dare I tell people that he's special needs and I was taking care of him? How is he going to siphon money out of my trust now? And so that was that. And yeah, and so those folks were uh, Danielle Olson and Saif ul Haq have been trying to rob me of my Yankee White security clearance compensation. They've also been trying to rob me of sexual assault and sexual harassment compensation that I'm due because of a rape that occurred at Davis Mountain Air Force Base at a black site. Now, the person that was in charge of overseeing that would be General Tersini, uh, also known as Kamala Harris, right? Ethan Tersini's mother. She has pseudonyms, she has disguises. It's no big deal. It's pretty normal in politics. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, she was in charge of that. She did a massive cover up. When I experienced it and I reported it, she had me in prison, she had me tortured, she had me punished, she had me discharged from the military earlier than I was supposed to be. And the reason all of that was being done was as some sort of way to cover up that she was responsible for what occurred and she was knowing of it, and she was covering it up because it would get in the way of her lining her pockets with my Yankee White security clearance compensation. Now, this did end up going to a cyber military court of sorts, a little bit of a shadow court, and I was owed a ton of money for what I had experienced. And she was actually she let me know that she was supposed to pass on her command to me because of what she had done. And these days, she's trying to claw back that money for the sexual assault, and she's trying to claw back the command position by further covering up what she's done and setting her troops out on me to rob me. And troops that have been covering up for her include Jacqueline Braden and Danielle Olson and Saif ul Haq. and they have this bounty money that they're after, but they're also very much interested in covering up the sexual assault. And you know, if they cover up the sexual assault successfully and rob me of that, they're more easily able to rob me of the Yankee White security clearance compensation. And so, in order to cover up the sexual assault and their responsibility, what they attempted to do, one thing they attempted to do, because they did a lot of things, uh, one thing they attempted to do is claim that uh, because I had an embarrassing moment when I was a child living with my aunt, they were going to pin my sexual assault on her and claim that I had issues before I even joined the military, and it's all my auntie's fault. Now, my auntie was a sweetheart. She would cook and clean for us. We're not on speaking terms right now because they did also try to get involved in the robbery of my security clearance compensation. But the truth is, she is a sweetheart, and she wouldn't do anything like that. She wouldn't go so extreme as to be involved in sexual assault, and she's not responsible for what happened on base under the purview of General Tersini and also General Puhek. And so Jacqueline Braden came at me with, "Oh yeah, we found out where all your issues are coming from, and we're gonna hold these people accountable." And I didn't know what she was talking about for the longest time, and suddenly it dawned on me that she was trying to hold my auntie responsible because she wanted to cover up for Kamala Harris to go ahead and do a little cleaning up for her Jewish community. And both of those folks are Jewish Israeli, and they rub it in my face as often as they can. Kamala will frequently say, "Oh yeah, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem's all ours," and she would constantly make posts about that. And Jacqueline Braden would constantly make posts about. She would constantly come at me with, you know, her fondness of Israel and some racism against me for being Palestinian. And to be honest, I mean that's not a topic that I touch with coworkers or people that I have a professional sort of relationship with. But these folks have been racist against me, and they mention these kinds of things out of some sort of spite. Now, of course, you have individuals like Saif ul Haq and Saif Abdullah who claim that they are very religious and very nationalistic and they want to protect their homelands. Yet, despite all of these things that are happening to me and my family, because of the cover up that's occurring, because of the attempted theft that's occurring, they just go along with whoever's plan, right? Their superior's plan. And so it has nothing, for them, it has nothing to do with racism. For them, it has nothing to do with nationalism. It's just about money. I mean, they're just a couple of pawns working for folks that are working against their own interests. And so it's kind of important that I make this video and show you how it all ties in and how something as simple as a sexual assault is being attempted to be twisted as some sort of issue that I had long beforehand or some sort of issue that they never caused and they're not complicit with, but they very, very much are complicit in that. And it's just important for me to note that and let everybody know, right? You know, when Jacqueline Braden admits that she's going to try to pin a sexual assault on my auntie instead of somebody from her community as an attempt at a cover up, I really think it's important that I say something. I mean, I don't see how else I could go about something like that except to say something and let people know that something not right is happening. It's important for me to tell people that when I'm being sexually harassed in my workplace at a restaurant, these folks are doing it on the behest of folks like Saif ul Haq and General Tersini because they want to create a record. They want to create an artificial pattern of me having sexual harassment and sexual assault issues in the workplace. But the reality of the matter is, these people were forcing their porn on me. They were punishing me for not watching their porn to give them free popularity, and it's important that I let the world know that. I mean, it's these are some of our highest offices as far as national security and the military is concerned, and these people are committing just absolute massive racketeering operations, criminal levels of embezzlement in the billions of dollars. They're giving out loans and forgiving those loans immediately, basically as a free handout to make other people complicit in the embezzlement so that they can turn around and say, hey, it's not just us that's embezzling money, so are you. And this operation has been going on for 10 odd years now. It started off with Rebecca Bauer harassing me in high school, also about my national origin of Palestine, my heritage, my parents' heritage. Um, so it started with her harassing me about that, and it continued on and on through my workplaces, covert military workplaces such as ClearLink, which is shut down after they got caught with yet another sexual harassment case of them spying on me through my laptop because they knew I had a war game exercise coming up. They wanted to cheat and get an edge on their game, and so they spied on me through a gift that they gave me. And they decided it would be safest if they just closed down their company and moved operations and started another one. And so they started Indeed there instead of ClearLink. So ClearLink Scottsdale no longer exists, but the entire Galleria uh, business center in downtown Scottsdale, Old Town area, is still there, and it's still an entire operation, as is the entirety of Old Town Scottsdale, essentially. And so, not really a shocker, I'm sure, but tons of people in Scottsdale work in intelligence. But that company in particular was supposed to be some sort of uh, military coercion site, right? They ruin your life, and they say, look, if the only way for you to get out of this cycle that we're putting you in is if you join the military, and from there they're able to basically have complete ownership of your life, and so they're able to rob you of your security clearance compensation much easier, especially if they funnel you to a community figure that they know, such as our Vice President Kamala Harris, aka General Tersini, Ethan Tersini's mother, right? And so they're much more easily able to encroach your freedom by running your life, which is basically what serving the military is like. You basically just following orders and going from point A to point B. They can make false allegations about you being mentally unwell. They can run the hospitals that go ahead and process you for your supposed being unwell. And that way they can try to establish a mental health record and rob you via those means, more easily able to put you under a conservatorship by bearing false witness to your mental health. And in fact, as has often been the case, General Tersini would show up with her paper mill nurse practitioner degree. She would show up to mental health facilities and say, oh, you're still unwell, Mo. We're going to keep you here for a few more weeks. Make sure your car tow bill goes up a lot, right? And, and if I have a skin condition from living with Saif ul Haq, he injected things into my face. I got a skin condition from that. He forced fungus into my face with an actual syringe and needle. And General Tersini would show up to the medical clinics that I would go to, and she would absolutely refuse to prescribe me antifungal. She would just prescribe me antibiotics instead, antibacterial specifically. And so I hope that kind of paints a trend of the racism and the human trafficking in general that these folks are involved with, and that they try to cover up with the notion of it being a military uh, military training exercise or a war game exercise or a security clearance exercise of sorts. What it is absolute embezzlement, and it's done by some of the people in the highest offices. I mean, the guy that runs the war game exercises and the is able to give out security clearances, whose name is General Puhek. He himself threw me in prison for reporting the sexual assault. That's what he did. He sent me back to a mental health facility for reporting experiencing a sexual assault at a mental health facility. And he did that by posing as a civilian and bearing false witness saying that I physically assaulted him. And that way he's able to report me to the police and say, I'm General such and such. This young man assaulted me in front of the commissary. Arrest him and put him in solitary confinement, and don't send him food when he needs food. And that's exactly what he did. And he did that because by me going to the Sexual Assault and Prevention and Response Office and reporting him for what he had done, I threw a wrench in their plan of robbing me of 10 years worth of security clearance damages compensation. They stole 10 years of my life intentionally so that they could rack up a bigger compensation and line their pockets with it just by throwing my life away. Because somehow, some way, somebody gave them this idea that they could get away with what they were doing as long as they did it to me. Somebody gave them this notion that I was special needs and that I don't have feelings and that it's okay to rob me. And the key figures involved in this involve our Vice President of the United States, General Tersini, aka Kamala Harris. It involves Saif Abdullah, an admiral, and also Admiral Saif ul Haq, and others that you will hear about, such as Colonel Danielle Olson and also, Major Jacqueline Braden. And so I hope you guys understand how widespread and deeply rooted the corruption is in what they like to call military tradition. There is an individual who currently feels in charge of this quote unquote special military operation and security clearance investigation, and he feels entitled to my security clearance compensation as a whole because he feels in charge, because he feels like he put together this racket. But the fact of the matter is, so far he has shit the bed in every way, and he has absolutely failed, and he won't be getting a penny. And that individual would be Saif ul Haq. That individual claimed that somehow, some way, I was autistic and I didn't have feelings, and that therefore they had the right to rob me of my security clearance compensation. Because even if they caused me damages and dragged my life through the dirt for years and years on end, it didn't matter because I didn't have feelings. And how did they try to establish this record of me being autistic and me not having feelings? Well, first and foremost, by using my mother. She's mentally unwell because she suffers from chemo brain because of the very difficult cancer treatment that she's experienced. And they were able to convince her, look, you want some money? We just have to do this and that. We have to take advantage of your son. All you have to do is let us take advantage of this trust that you have and say that instead of it being because you have cancer and you're worried about your youngest child's future, you can say it's because your son is unwell and he needs people to take care of him. And so what she would do is she would elect these military officials, such as Danielle Olson, a colonel, an admiral, Saif ul Haq. These people that were in charge of investigating and adjudicating my security clearance, she would have them uh, act as the trustees. And I don't know if I'm using the right word, they're not trustees, but the people in charge of the trust. And they would basically just line their pockets with money. Danielle would buy tons of alcohol and just throw crazy parties. Saif ul Haq, when I lived with him, basically didn't do much except stay at home and smoke shit tons of weed. And so that kind of explains the kind of folks that my mother got involved with. And that kind of explains how unwell she is for her to do that to her own son. Yeah, and so that's one means of them trying to establish that I was mentally unwell. Another means they attempted to use was by claiming that. So basically, Saif ul Haq in college, his parents approached me, and I addressed this a lot in a lot more detail in other videos. But they basically approached me and let me know that their son was retarded and they needed somebody to look after him. But he wouldn't hang out with neurotypical people because he was always worried that they were above him, and so they wanted me to feign that I was special needs. And so I went to ASU and I got a record from them per the Olhak parents' actual advice and directions. I went to the mental hospital and I got a piece of paper that I could show Saif Olhak and be like, oh, Boohoo, I'm autistic. Tell me all about your fetal alcohol syndrome. I'll tell you all about my problems. And so they tried to use that sort of record as another piece of evidence to claim that I was unwell. And so I hope all of this ties in together for you guys. I hope I spoke as quickly as I could, and I kept things as brief as possible. But I just wanted to show you how somebody was trying to cover up a sexual assault in some of the worst ways possible, and how they wanted to throw my family under the bus because they felt like their family was thrown under the bus, even though their family was very much guilty of doing what they did to me. And I hope I showed you how military officials that are in charge of uh, investigating and adjudicating my security clearance have been lining their pockets with my own trust and using it as a slush fund for their racketeering operation of trying to rob me of my security clearance compensation and trying to force me under a conservatorship. And this trend in behavior has followed me through the country. That Navajo National Guard base here in Flagstaff, a lot of the folks that work for them have been acting very corrupt, and I caught them red-handed. I even caught them conspiring with folks that I had problems with over in Phoenix, such as Saif Ulhak and Danielle Olson, who are also embezzling money from the trust. The same way my sister Nur Haloum has been embezzling money from the trust. Her father-in-law happens to be that very War Games general, General Jim Puhek. And so it's not like I'm a crazy person with a cork board and some red string, and I'm trying to draw some like false conclusions between this photo and this detail and that detail. It's all pretty straightforward, and it's all very clear how these folks decided to try to take advantage of me, and it's all very clear how they go to such extremes, such as to try to break me, including rape, and they try to cover up that they went to those extremes. And to this day, I am harassed by these individuals. As a matter of fact, Ethan Tersini himself lives right above me, the son of General Tersini. And what he does is he harasses me. He stomps on the ceiling all the time. He attempts to break in. I caught him looking in through my bedroom window the other day. And so that just goes to explain the kinds of things that I experience, how it all ties in together, and how our government officials are just after money. Um, and at this point, my own family is complicit. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the small segment concerning the sexual assault cover up. Now, something very important to note is that, um, a quick addendum. I know I already said goodbye, but a quick addendum is that something important to note is that these military officers are able to act as judges and are able to act as lawyers. And what they do is they'll go ahead and show up to court and put on their little gown. And what they will do is just go against anything that I'm doing to advocate for myself in a courtroom. If I try to get a restraining order against Jacqueline Braden and Cody Myers and Joshua Rodriguez, Danielle Olson will show up to the courtroom and deny me my right to get a restraining order, despite me having thorough evidence, despite a restraining order not needing thorough evidence. Another example would be General Tersini doing the exact same thing, showing up to the courtroom, acting as the judge, and denying me my rights because she's after my money. And she has these military powers to conduct security clearance investigations, and she abuses those powers to try to ruin my life so that she can try to put me under a conservatorship and so that she can rob me of a very compensation for the security clearance that she refuses to adjudicate, the security clearance that she extends the investigation timeline for as long as possible, going on some 10 odd years now. And that's important to note because uh, a very key point to all of this is that these folks are not some sort of people that are trustworthy enough to be in charge of my trust. These are people that are officers in the military that are conducting my security clearance investigation and are trying to rob me all the while. Um, These people are not trustworthy as judges. They work as judges when I go to the courtroom for restraining orders or for injunctions against harassment or for lawsuits. They show up in the courtroom and just to work against me because they have the power to do so. And it has nothing to do with a security clearance. It has nothing to do with hardening me as some sort of trooper. It has nothing to do with spy tradecraft. Absolutely nothing. What it has to do with is them attempting to ruin my life so they can get an inch closer to robbing me. Um, and it isn't just courtrooms, right? It's also medical facilities. If I go to a clinic and try to get an antifungal for something that is very clearly an infection of yeast or an infection of fungus, and there's physical evidence of that, and I show the physical evidence of that, and I still get an antibiotic instead, that's just General Tersini abusing her powers as a military officer to abuse me. Um, and that trend is there as well. And so these individuals are very corrupt. The record is there, and they go to great lengths. And they have attempted to murder me even several times now. And so I hope you guys take all of this information into consideration, um, because it's been a long time. It's been a long time dealing with this. It's been some 10 odd years now, and it started with Rebecca Bauer way back in my high school days, showing up in her truck and abusing me for having a Palestinian heritage and attempting to falsely paint me as some sort of rock throwing individual at a bus stop. When in reality, she planted a couple people at the bus stop to try to set me up. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you listening to this important update that ties a lot of the information together and that drops that very important piece of information, which is Jacqueline Braden and General Tersini, aka Kamala Harris, trying to cover up the sexual assault in order to preserve their, public name and public image, and go ahead and try to throw my very own aunt under the bus, an aunt that helped take care of my family when my mother was ill and when we really could have used her help. She was there for us, and they're trying to take advantage of the fact that uh, she was in our household, and I had an embarrassing childhood, coming of age moment, and they're trying to hold that against her as if she's somehow a sexual abuser, which very much is not the case. And at the end of all of this, despite the racism, despite the sexual abuse, despite the theft of my money by these individuals, you have folks like Sayef Abdullah and Saif ul Haq coming along and pretending that they're doing it for the Palestinian people. You have individuals like Ghassan Itayim pretending that he's doing it in the name of, helping out his Muslim brother Saif ul Haq. All of these people are in it for money. Unfortunately, many of them were childhood friends. Unfortunately, many of them are family members. Unfortunately, many of them are troops that I served with, but their intentions are very clear. People are in it for the money. This has nothing to do with nationalism. These are some of the least American people I've ever met, even the high ranking ones.